Excuse me, I'm going to have to ask you to stop there. Hello there. Hello there. Hello there. Take the headphones off. Hello there. Might I ask what on earth it is you think that you are doing right now? I know that you're listening to music in this vintage CD store, but let me rephrase that for you. Can I ask you what the hell do you think you're doing right now? Well, let me paraphrase for you and break it down. You are listening to my headphones in my vintage CD store with my CDs on my premises, with me watching you, completely ignoring this very, very important sign here, which applies pretty much to people like yourself. No offense given. And there should be an explanation mark there as well. That means no touching the CDs whatsoever. Don't even think about touching them. You could look at them, just don't touch them. Excuse me? Oh, then why do I have headphones dotted around the store, plugged in and ready to let people listen to the CDs? Well, that's a whole bunch of mind your own business there. Yeah, summed up perfectly. Why is there signs allocated next to each station with headphones saying, please test out and try the CDs before you buy? Hope you enjoy it. Well, I can explain that one there for you. It's for people not like you. It's for those who are probably a little bit more local to this area, who come to our stores often. Come to the barber shop, come to the suit store, go to the game store, maybe an acquaintance of Lord Farquhar himself. Just not persons such as yourself, because you look like you don't do any of those things, and therefore springs to mind immediately for me that you are not educated enough to appreciate the subtle art of vintage CDs and how prestigious they actually are. And this store itself, this store has been open since CDs were actually in full use. Before the download digital age, CDs were the way to go. Now, back in the day, it used to be called the CD store. But unfortunately, the way things have turned out and time has proceeded to move ahead of us, what we consider perhaps vintage, or what I consider vintage, which would be 70s, 80s. Unfortunately, we've now been relegated back down to the vintage era. So things that you'd probably see in the 90s, 2000s, and perhaps even 2010s could be considered borderline vintage, if not pure vintage. And what used to be very hip-hop, bebop, dance till you drop is now considered quite old and vintage. So that is where we come in. We have a vast selection, as you can see, of vintage CDs that you used to be able to buy, mostly brand new and mostly also not so brand new. This vintage CD store is guaranteed to help you find the perfect CD for you to take home and enjoy the subtle art of placing your CD into either CD player, a hi-fi system player, yeah, something along those lines, yeah, surround sound player with a disc drive for you to insert your disc for you to listen the very traditional way. It's a bit like smoking, okay? If you want it traditionally, then you do it traditionally. You don't go for the digital version. Yes, so let's start from the beginning now, because I believe that you have got off on the wrong foot there. Now, would you like to leave my store and never come back? No, you would like to buy a CD. Right, I see. Well, I'm going to place these perhaps right here. Okay, now, please, before you think about touching them, just have a little look at this sign. If you feel any urges to touch, draw your attention back to the sign. I will do all the touching as we are now engaged in conversation, and my attention is now towards you, and I don't want you going anywhere else in this store because I don't entirely trust you. Right, so tell me your music taste, what you like, what you enjoy, what sort of vintage music do you indeed appreciate? my dear fellow, I'm afraid what you've just listed there is complete and utter garbage. Yeah, well, I think we can cater for something along those lines, but now you're in a vintage CD store. It's a very relaxing place, and I do know my CDs, and I think I can get you some CDs which are completely different to what you suggested, and nothing like what you want. And perhaps you can take away something new and feel cultured or something along those lines. Indeed. Well, have you got your white gloves on? It's just in case you feel like touching some things. Well, I have an array of CDs, vintage CDs here, which might take your fancy. Perhaps you would like to take a little look, actually. So how about that I select you a CD or two and see where we can go from there. Well, you won't be listening. You're going to have to take my word from it, I'm afraid. Plus, it's quite late, and we don't want to play any loud music at this late hour. You don't want to wake anyone up who's going to the game store late at night. Right. So it just so happens that I have a finest collection of CDs here. You may have heard these. Heard of these. So this is the Lord of the Rings soundtrack. This is the motion picture soundtrack, and this might be invisible right now, just like the ring when you put it on. But this is a CD which contains the motion picture soundtrack, so this isn't the full extended version, but when that came out, then you can rest assured that I got hold of it and binge listened to it. But this contains the Fellowship of the Ring, and to show you the CD in there, and artwork. It's very nice. And then we have the Two Towers here as well. Let me show you the CD in there. Really nice. Gandalf holding Glamdring there as well. And then what we have here is Return of the King. As you can tell, this particular CD has certainly been used the most. Okay, as you can see here, has the map of Middle-earth and has been well loved and used and looked after with Mount Doom there as well, with Nazgul flying around. Okay, the thing about CDs is that you get artwork with it. It's a full package affair, unlike your digital downloads or whatever the hell you do. Yeah, I laugh at digital downloads. Honestly, you get nothing with it, and you don't get a guarantee of fully owning it in some occasions. Whereas a CD, you own it forever. You've got that music forever, and you could play it wherever, whenever, providing you've got some sort of power supply and CD player, of course. That's the small print. But would you be interested in these particular CDs here? Indeed. Well, we have a little bit of a system here, is that when you purchase a CD, what I'd like to do is to make sure each CD of yours is going to be protected, and then we'll take it out of the case and you're able to put it back into the case when you get home. Why do I do this? Because I feel like it. So you may be familiar with these whole things. This is probably what you would find a lot of your games when you were younger on your computer, or perhaps if you weren't a pirate, were you? No, not a pirate who sails the seven seas. A pirate who would download music and make your own CDs and burn them and perhaps give it to a friend. You do look like the sort. Okay, no, but we don't use those or make those here. This is purely for protecting your CDs. Let me show you. We have the other option here as well. So place that there. Let me show you what we do here. So, open up the CD. We get the CD itself. We'll place it into our protective CD case. Make sure that's tucked in nicely there, like so. Then we're going to take your CD and we will place it for double protection in the CD case here. So now you have double protection. So your case will travel separately, and then you can have these in sleeves. Is it better in the case? Potentially, but when you come to a vintage CD store like this, then you can expect that all of your CDs are going to be very, very well looked after, and you want to feel like you're getting the vintage feel from it. So pop those there and get those done for you there. Would you like to perhaps view some more CDs that we have on offer here? Of course you would. I could see the excitement is brewing. So let me take some selections here. See if any of these take your fancy. Okay, so I have a very nice CD here, which you might like the look of. This is the Revenge of the Sith motion picture and soundtrack. Now this is a soundtrack and a vintage CD, which personally I used to have on repeat. I used to fall asleep to it, I used to listen to it throughout the whole day, I used to wake up to it. This has been listened to and well loved, and I have an infinite amount of copies of these as well in the vintage store. Of course it comes at an exceptionally high price. The beauty of this particular CD is that it came with a bonus disc in there as well, on the back here, which isn't part of it because I've placed it in my Battlefront 2 game CD, but it's one of a musical journey, and it's Ian McDermott, and he talks about Star Wars musically, and they go through it all. You can tell that's where the CD was as well, or would go. Now this is very fragile, very delicate, but if you appreciate John Williams' music as much as I do, and listen to it every day since the first day you saw The Phantom Menace at the cinema, then you're probably going to love this particular soundtrack. Okay, that's a good one there for you. Well, I am surprised your appreciation there for soundtrack music. Next we have 300, the Zack Snyder's 300. There are some good songs on here, like Returns a King, not to be mistaken for Lord of the Rings there, of course, but it certainly was a visual sort of film with an interesting soundtrack with it. Yep. Well, yeah, no, that's a good one there. We'll place it back over there. Now, the most important of all soundtracks, the one which is the soundtrack above all soundtrack. Now, this isn't for sale, I'm afraid, nor is any of the Revenge of the Sith ones, but all Star Wars ones. This is the most prized possession in our vintage CD store. This is the Phantom Menace complete soundtrack. Now, I'm not quite sure why they didn't go and make this version for all of the films, because I'd obviously want personally all the soundtrack on a vintage CD now that it's vintage. But this is what I managed to personally get hold of when I was quite young, and once I got it and heard a particular song in there of a choir singing, then I was instantly hooked, and it's been on repeat ever since. So you could find vintage CDs like that in this store. Next up, there's a little theme here. We have Attack of the Clones. This is a really nice CD, and once again you can find that a vintage CD will not only include the CD, there is always something else to go with it. You won't find that with your downloads. Yes, that's one of the fortunate things of CDs, is that you get all of that merchandise and era and packaging and appreciation of whatever music you've just bought. You just don't get that these days. That love and care and attention has disappeared from so many things, I'm afraid, because of people like you. Okay, I'm not single-handedly blaming you. You just look like the type of person who would be responsible for that sort of thing. Okay, so we have the Gladiator soundtrack here. Oh, we have a custom-made CD there. Let me place that there. You didn't see that. Pirate must have got into there. Right, and Gladiator. This is a perfect soundtrack by Hans Zimmer, and includes all the lovely artwork from the film. A really nice CD. Keeping with Hans Zimmer, Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, a soundtrack which I have binge listened to for so many years now. Let's open it up, and you can see inside the beautiful artwork there as well. You just can't beat it with these CDs. I hope that after your visit here in the vintage CD store, you'll appreciate CDs a little bit more, and we'll just pretend that that's a working hinge there. Okay, and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, a great soundtrack by Patrick Doyle, and really is a beautiful soundtrack, and holds some great nostalgic songs from the film. Now moving back, but keeping on the same film, this is a masterpiece of a soundtrack, the last score from John Williams, who actually scored the first 3 Harry Potters, and then the rest moved on to Nicholas Hooper, Patrick Doyle, until it moved on to Alexander Desplat or whatever for the last 2 installments of the Potter series. Then he's doing the most recent Jurassic Park as well. These soundtracks, and this one in particular, was a very special one, and I can very much recall playing this on the hi-fi system as I was reading the books. Well, that's the beauty of CDs. Once you've got a CD chosen, selected, you listen to it and enjoy it. You don't sporadically find whatever you want and have a barrage of selection bestowed in front of you. You listen to what you've got. Okay, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, a beautiful soundtrack, and this really is a vintage piece. No, none of those right now are actually for sale, and I was just humouring you with the Lord of the Rings. That's actually not for sale either. So we have music for Christmas, and then we have Star Wars and other sci-fi classics, and this is Richard Heyman and his orchestra. So if you wanted a slight variation on classic themes like that, that could be up your street. Paul McCartney. Now this is a particular song, Dance Tonight, which I was very much interested in, and we've got it here, like so. Good soundtrack. Okay, a great soundtrack, and now this is true vintage as well. This is the White Stripes, and of course it includes the Seven Nation Army on there as well. This is a great soundtrack and album, and it's something you would be interested in. I thought it would be. I instantly knew it straight away. Well, let me get it all wrapped up here for you. So we have our protective sleeve. Let's place it in the sleeve there. And then double protection here as well. So I will place that over here for you, so it's ready. Okay, shall we continue? Good. Well, this truly is a vintage one. Now, if you don't really know the Shadows, then it's quite an old one, but the CD is a newer one, and this includes all of the biggest songs on there. So if you appreciate just a bit of guitar music, a bit of drums with no vocals, then the Shadows certainly were very good for that. I'd recommend trying it. Indeed. Okay, why don't we get that put in a CD protective case there for you. And then we have a very vintage CD here. This is Coldplay, so you can expect the Scientists and other great classics on there as well. This was $9.99 when it first came out, so you can add perhaps another £50 to that. Yeah, I know it's a little bit expensive, but it's vintage after all. And this is a vintage expensive store, so if that's something you'd be interested in, you are interested in, that's good to know. Okay, and then we have another White Stripes here. Okay, so if that's something you would like to go along with your current White Stripes. No? Okay, and then we have Daft Punk, the album here. So One More Time, Aerodynamic. Yeah, so there's some really great songs on here. And you have a Daft Punk card which expires here on the 12th, 2002. So that's jolly good there as well. So you don't get all these little extras with your digital downloads, do you? You would like this one, of course you would. Right, that's perfectly fine. It's good that you're trying out these things. And just think of this as we're perhaps educating you and making you a better person, torturing you to some better days when music tended to be a little bit better. Okay. A fine choice there. So I'll just write down all of your interesting ones there. Top Loader. This is a very nice vintage CD. No, that's perfectly fine. And there could be something in here which could be suited for you. Now, Flight of the Concords. This is a band which I loved the TV show, and I love their sense of humour. It's something which I found very special. I wish they continued. I've gone to all of their live shows personally. Now it's all in a vintage CD, so you can expect all the nice things there, decorative artwork, and a lot of green, which is probably not going to be appreciated. It's certainly one you're interested in, indeed. And then we have their second album, Flight of the Concords here. Yeah, so there's a lot of great songs on there. It's an acquired taste for sure, but you'll find a lot of these different vintage CDs is that you get all manner of types of sleeves and things which you just don't get anymore. Get a poster in there, there's bread, and then Jermaine with their carrot gold tears. Okay, so let's place that back in there. Well, let's just hope we've educated you a little bit better there. Then we're going for some very old vintage CDs. So we've got Gorillaz here, and then we've got more Gorillaz here. Okay, Bad Dog there. And then my all-time favorite. This is one of those vintage pieces, which of course is incredibly expensive. We have a few of these in store, and this of course is the Clint Eastwood one. So if this is something that you would be interested in, or perhaps you'd like me to rap out the whole song for you, is that something you would be interested in? I can do it. What do you mean you don't think I can do it? I assure you I can do it. Right. Perhaps another time then. You'd be interested in this CD? Of course you would. Unfortunately, this one isn't for sale either. Okay, then we've got Demon Days. Slightly newer version. You would want this one? Certainly. Okay, just to show the CD here. Okay, happy with that. Let's get a protective sleeve. would you like to have a little listen to any of these music with the headphones? Very well done. I thought you was going to fall for the trap. Of course you can't listen to any of these songs with the headphones because I don't want you to. And then we have the newer version of the, well, I'd say newer, of the Gorillaz. They're a great album also. And we have different variants of the Star Wars music. So if there's anything here which takes your fancy, you want something a little bit more cultured, shall we say, perhaps something along this could be of interest to you if you appreciate a little bit of organ music. And then we move into the realm of Red Hot Chili Peppers here. Okay, and if you want something which is magnificent, this is the live show, and this is all of their amazing songs and in the live variant of it. So even with CDs, you get these options, but you don't find these on your digital downloads. Yeah, but CDs, you will find them. Okay, so that certainly is one which is a true vintage find. You would like that one? Okay, I'll consider it. I'll put it in the consideration pot. Then we have another Gorillaz CD here, and then of course Red Hot Chili Peppers greatest hits here. So these are all their biggest hits, and this is so vintage that it's missing the front case here because it was used so much and probably stuffed down the side of a car, but the car door. But it's all there if you want it. So Red Hot Chili Peppers, that's one you're interested in. Okay. Well, this is a 2-disc special, so I'll tell you what we've got. A very special bag just for this one. How's that there for you? Well, once it's all fully wrapped up and it almost looks like it's in cellophane again, it looks brand new. There's something really appealing about it and it looks amazing. Okay, so we've done that stack there. We do have a stack here. Would you like to have a look at these vintage CDs? See what we have to offer? You're very welcome to. Okay, I've got a couple more minutes spare. You look a little bit relaxed. To just try and sharpen up a little bit for me. Thank you. Right, so we have one CD here, which certainly isn't stuck together by some old blue tack, which is however many decades old there. Okay, so we have the Sound of Star Wars. This is the Millennium Orchestra, so you can find and expect those classic sort of 70s vibe Star Wars remix songs. The ones that you hear perhaps at conventions and they play when someone's coming on stage, and it's a little bit fun. So we have 2 variants of that, and they're very vintage and you can't find these things online at all. Celtic jigs and reels, no idea how this is in the collection, but it's certainly a different one there for you. Okay, then we have Oasis here, and it has all of the good ones except my all-time favorite, Importance of Being Idol, but this is a great CD. Yeah, okay, that's perfectly fine. You have no taste. Now, a marvelous album, Stadium Arcadium, and this is true essence of Red Hot Chili Peppers in my personal opinion, and it really is a great album and just a great vintage CD to have in your possession. You're interested in this one too? Right, well, write down the old one. Of course, you are aware that this is incredibly expensive. Good. few more left here. So we have Supergrass. This is a very vintage CD. There's a good one. And there we have the Lion King soundtrack. And this is one of those vintage CDs which bears the masterpieces of Hans Zimmer in there as well. If you ever get the opportunity to watch it live, which I have several times and shall be again this year, then I highly recommend it. Then we have another Gorillaz CD. We don't like that green head today, but this certainly is a complete album of one of their true original masterpiece classics. So if you want to feel a little bit country, perhaps dueling banjos might be of interest there for you. Why is it about my collection? Because I like banjos, of course, and I like them when they're dueling together. Right, so this is one where you can have all of the all-time classics in there as well. And if you want to feel like you're perhaps down south somewhere and driving a tractor or something, I don't know, then that certainly is a great CD to listen to. No, well, each to his own. Okay, and then we have a Mika CD here, so that'd be like Grace Kelly and things. Well, for what we have here, that's what we have on the table. I could get you some more CDs to look at. I could show you across that vast collection over there, and I could show that incredible selection of vintage CDs there, but I'm not, and I won't. And I can't be bothered. So you've got a nice collection of vintage CDs there, and I think it's going to cost you enough there. So if you allow me just to tally up the price there. So I don't know if you're completely aware when you go to a vintage store that you have to pay through vintage methods there as well. So if you can just sign there for me. Yep, just right there. Thank you. That's just a little bit of small print to say no refunds. Okay, and I'll make you up a receipt here, an invoice. Vintage CDs. Okay, and how would you like to pay? Cash card? Not digitally. No, probably with the card machine. So you put your card in, it's got the paper in there, and then you put it back, comes out, all your details are already in there. That's an acceptable card payment in a vintage CD store. Good. Here, we'll just write out your receipt here. Right, so that's for me. And that one there is for you. So, do you feel somewhat more cultured than when you first walked into the store? Good. Well, that's of course the main thing when you come to a vintage CD store. It's not to feel good, it's not to feel relaxed, it's not to pick up the headphones and put them on and listen to music at your own free will. It's not to make a nuisance of yourself, but it's to appreciate the art of vintage CDs and perhaps relax in the process. Well, thank you so much for coming to my store and doing business with me and choosing your own vintage CDs. Good. Well, I'm glad you liked it. Enjoyed listening to your CDs. One little thing. Don't worry if you find there's a lot of skipping with the CDs. That's probably because they're so vintage. The discs aren't as clean as they should be, but just think of it as a little remix there, okay? And of course, no refunds. Is there anything else I can do for you here today? Well, I'd like to personally thank you for coming into my vintage CD store. I hope to see you again soon. Take care of yourself. Cheerio. No, don't go grabbing these. These are for me.